So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé UK. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing Season 11, Episode 1 of 90 Day Fiancé. In this episode, we're introduced to 5 of the couples for this season. Shekinah and Sarper are here from the other way, and Sarper is doing his K1 interview. From Love in Paradise, we have Jessica and Juan going to a decidedly non-paradise-like Wyoming. We meet pilot Mark, whose fiancée Mina is blowing off his family, made a very bad impression on them. We also meet Stevi, whose very patriotic dad might not think so highly of her Iranian fiancé Madi. And Amani and Matt, who are getting divorced to bring their third of their throuple across a not-so-distant border. Alright, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy!
Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
I'm not too bad. Got this new I'd say excited is the wrong word because it's not really excited, but we got this new season going on, right? So
yes,
we have something fresh and new to be talking about, and not I would say not the same old people. We've literally never talked about any of these people before, but doesn't mean they're new to the show.
No, they are not new to the show, except for Shekinah and Sarper, right? Because I feel like they were on before the 90 Day, or not the other way.
They were on the other way, but it was the Monday night the other way when there was a thing. So there was a before the 90 or a regular OG on or a Happy Life or whatever they had, right? So they've never been on the Sunday show.
Yes. So at least I have, because I do watch everything, even though we don't cover everything. Mm-hmm. So we have seen, out of the group we saw today, we've seen Juan and Jessica before, and Shekinah and Sarper. And so the other 3 we have are new. Right. And so there is some kind of, like you said, I don't want to say excitement, but some kind of like, okay, refreshed motivation, I guess, in the new groups. But I don't know. Overall, if anything is like Shekinah and Sarper, like if it's going to go down like this, I don't know, snooze fest. Yeah,
so let's start with Shekinah and Sarper because they're the old ones. We mentioned them already. So they're in Ankara because he needs to go to the embassy, and the embassy's in Ankara because it's the capital of Turkey. And so this is, I think it's the 3rd season they've been on, but again, the first one we're talking about them. So, they're trying to get it ready. They're on the street. She tries to kiss him, but he doesn't. Everything. Oh, I got to talk about it. Everything just seems so calculated. The entire everything that they even talk about even in these scenes. Like they double check one more time to make sure he has everything, and somehow that leads to some subtle sex jokes. It was confusing. Mm-hmm. They also use this evidence folder that they have of here's pictures of us together as an opportunity to fill us in a bit on their past, which involves like thousands and thousands of pictures because they're both very, very vain people.
Yes.
So they met on a dating app, and she visits Turkey often, but she keeps having to go back because she has a daughter in boarding school in the States. Because of his daughter, if they want to be together all the time, Sarper needs to live in the United States. So of course that's what brings us to here. And he's got to go into the embassy on his own. So when we get back to them, Shekinah is just like walking down the street, freaking out about what's going on during this visa interview. She says Sarper has a lot of reservations about going to the U.S., and he's been trying to talk her out of even doing it until like literally today. They tried and failed to have a conversation about what happens if the K1 isn't approved because the answer there is probably they'd have to break up. Another issue is if it does get approved, it's going to be a long time before he can come back to Turkey, so he won't see his family and everything. So she sits on a bench where they agreed to meet 3 hours after he went in, and he gets there and she doesn't like the look on his face, and they have like a dramatic pause while he just like subtly like shakes his head and then drops it. And I say that they were on for longer than like 30 seconds because there was 30 seconds worth of material that happened, but there was just so many shots of them walking down the street in silence.
Like, and that's what I mean about it being boring, because it was like, what exactly happened? Okay, he went to his visa interview. Big whooping deal.
Which literally every person has to do on this show. Yes.
Well, almost everyone. We'll get to that.
Yes, that's true.
But their segment was a little boring. I mean, I guess we can kind of recap for those of you who have never seen this couple before. They're arguably a little more on the controversial side because their past on this show kind of consists of him being an absolute man whore. Like, we're talking about thousands of women he slept with that he's literally accounted for in a notebook.
Yes, he has a little diary of the
where he keeps tally marks of every woman he's ever slept with. He keeps mementos about these conquests, I guess he would. So there's a lot of like misogyny happening in general. There's a lot of concerns about his controlling nature. He's the one who's designed Shekinah's nose job, because he's like, well, I have to look at your face, so shouldn't I have to design what I want it to look like? They're both really big into social media, plastic surgery. She's insanely jealous. So he's a physical trainer, and so, or personal trainer. And so she's saying, oh, you can no longer train women. I've seen your, man ways, and we're going to have none of that.
And your notebook, yes.
Right. I've seen your notebook. No more women being trained. And then also kind of the weirdly notable thing that, I don't know, to me is a huge red flag. There was an actual physical altercation, I think, in the last season where he had gotten somewhat violent, and I think he pulled at her hair and yanked out some of her hair extensions, and she immediately recognized this as a red flag, left, gave him a laundry list of things that he would have to do in order to still be in this relationship with her, which included basically getting therapy and admitting what he did. And I think she was like low-key shocked, because he is very controlling, that he met her demands. And so he was in therapy to kind of discuss this incident. She claims that nothing like that has happened since. I mean, I was at least proud of the fact that she set boundaries and was like, this is not okay, and wasn't like, some of these other situations where we see him where they just kind of like accept it and move on. But I love him, and she was very clear about, no, you need to change. So that's basically a recap of their situation. They're not exactly the most well-liked people, because on tell-alls,
I think they're pretty hated. Like,
they like to get in people's business.
Both of them, and you can tell just by the way they carry themselves. Both of them are extremely full of themselves.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right,
yeah.
and just you can tell by the way they are. And I just got the impression from this one that the producers the director didn't actually direct anything. I feel like it was Sarper being like, no, I'm going to walk down this street in a briefcase, and you're going to stand right there, and this is the cake, and then I'm going to come by, and then I'm going to turn around the corner, and I'll get more shots of me with the briefcase walking forward. And she kind of does the same thing. I'm going to walk into this shop, and the shot, I want it to be right here. And like, I feel like that's the impression that I got from these two, is they're just like, no, I know exactly how I want to be seen up. I know how exactly I want to look on this show. How they're actually portrayed, they might not get so much say on, and obviously doesn't work out well for them, but they both have a very specific idea of how they want to look on this show, and that is the most important thing to them. Yeah,
I can definitely see that. They're both y'all can physically see them if you're watching the show, but they're just plastic. Everything about them is very like plastic. In fact, I think that something that has come up about Sarper's look is just like, his face looks like it's on permafilter. Like, it doesn't look
It looks like someone
real.
molded clay and was like, like I guess he's a transformer or something, like an Autobot.
Right.
Like, I've made this
He
big
does.
things.
He looks like a doll, like a plastic Ken doll. Like,
yes. Mm-hmm.
In a very weird, it's really kind of hard to describe, but they both look like AI generated. Like, they don't look like real people. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, so moving on with people that may not seem totally real as well, and that's with our throuple. So we start off in San Diego, where we meet Amani and her husband, Matt, and I hate that they're bringing in two daughters into the mix, but we got Lila and Sarah. They're all enjoying family time at the pumpkin patch. Amani and Matt met in college, and Amani fell in love with his sense of humor, and she loves being married and a mom. Amani is originally from Tunisia, and she left when she was 18 to go to school in the U.S. She considers herself a boss babe, and she works for a tech company, as she says, closing deals. So we don't know her job title or what she actually does, but this is how she describes it.
It's very much, I'm a business person who business is business by dealing. Yes.
Right. So we get to know Matt, who says that they are very different, and he believes that opposites track. We get some clips of them trying to role play on video chat with their girlfriend, Ani. They are a throuple, which is a 3-person relationship. Amani identifies as bisexual. They met Ani at a club in Mexico, and they went back to the hotel and hooked up, but developed feelings for her immediately. They think that Ani really adds something to their relationship. This is Amani and Matt's first poly relationship. The issue is that Amani and Matt are legally married, so they're going to need to divorce to bring Ani to the U.S. They have spent maybe about 24 days total in person with Ani. They're going to Mexico again to visit Ani and take the relationship to the next level and meet her 3 children. They met one of them, but she has 2 other children they haven't met, and they're planning on proposing to her officially. Later, Matt and Amani take a boat out with their friends Kelly and Eric. Kelly seems supportive of Ani, thinking that it was only an adventure and a hookup. But they tell their friends that they want to bring Ani to the U.S., and Kelly points out, how are you going to do that on a K-1 visa if y'all are married? Matt says that they will legally get divorced, but Amani assures everyone that it's just on paper. Kelly plays the skeptical friend well and says it seems excessive and fast. Amani says that she was also from another country, and if, she were in Ani's position, she would want this opportunity as well. Eric is worried about Matt's overall well-being, and he worries that Matt's just going along to make Amani happy. Eric has had experience with poly relationships, and he says it didn't go well because he had jealousy because, the other 2 had inside jokes, and then it didn't seem as that he had as much of a connection to them. And then Matt thinks that these concerns are legitimate, and Amani admits to being the jealous one and worries that someone may feel left out at some point. But that's okay because they want to prove everyone wrong. All right. So this couple does not belong on this show, right?
No, because this isn't real. They don't even have
a visa.
They don't have the K1. They're working on the K1, right? They don't have it. They shouldn't get it. It's clearly
illegal.
Fraud. Right? Clearly fraud. And if I feel like, the evidence given, we just saw Sarper and Shekinah had to show, here's pictures of us together. I feel like when they looked into it, they'd be like, you got divorced from someone who's still living with you 2 weeks ago, and now you're applying for a K1. Denied. Yeah. We know what's happening here.
All these pictures have all the 3 of you in it?
Right. Yes. And you have
Who is this third person always in all these pictures? Right. Good point.
Now, granted, they could probably get more pictures because the other reason this shouldn't count is because, yes, technically, Ani is from a different country. Mm-hmm. But these people live in San Diego and Ani's from Tijuana. They're right next. They're 20 minutes apart. This is not like a, come in, stranger from a strange land has to come into this country and learn. It's the next town over. It just happens to be on the other side of the border.
Yeah. Okay. I missed the fact that she was from Tijuana, but
I don't think they actually said it, but ridiculous. It's been online that's where she's from. They keep saying she's from Mexico. And it's technically, yes.
That's ridiculous because that also makes me more suspicious about their relationship because they're trying to plug this thing. It's long distance, but it's you've only spent 24 days with this woman in real life if you're just the town over. How serious are we about this relationship?
Yeah. Just everything about this couple seems
fake,
fakey, fake. Including Amani with her like, I'm a boss ass bitch. And she's like, and boss stands for, she literally said this, boss ass bitch energy. And I was like, you called yourself a boss bitch, but then you're like, boss is in boss. You're a boss bitch. Your energy. I'm confused. This doesn't even make any sense. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
The other one that drove me nuts is she goes, people just don't understand throuple. For some reason, they always like sexualize it. And I was like, you introduced it by doing Zoom
Role
sex
playing.
with a sexy
Yes.
nerd's outfit.
They are, I feel, a walking contradiction because you're right in that they're trying to present it. Oh, it's more than just a hookup. We had a deep connection. It's like, well, even Kelly was there. She thought it started off being a hookup. And it's one thing to be a hookup and then you realize, oh, there's something more there. That's fair. But it's also, fair for them for other people on the outside to think, oh, well, you're just looking to hook up. Yeah, because that's a major part of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's especially because, and I don't know, again, this whole thing just reeks of fakeness so much that I don't know what to believe and what not to believe. But they're certainly setting it up for Matt to be actually not cool with this whole situation.
Yeah, right.
and it's just going along, right? Because it's one of those things where like, and I can see it, if we play it as real, right? Yeah, you get to have sex with two women. Win-win, right? Cool.
Right.
But he doesn't want that. But he also feels bad about complaining about getting to have sex with two women. And it's just like, even though it's just her that wants, and he feels like it's just her that wants Ani, and he's just like around, like to watch the kids while they bang.
It definitely gives me like Brittany Marcelino from Love After Lockup vibes. Where Brittany was really pushing to, bring in her friend. And Marcelino was kind of like, I don't know about this. And then he finally kind of gave in because he was really afraid of losing Brittany. But kind of the same thing happened with them. It's like if you have three people, and just like Amani was saying about, someone's going to feel left out. I mean, I even watched that trash show on, I think, Peacock, Coupled to Throuple. That was a pretty common thing, is if, the third person, whoever that third person may be, may feel on the outs. They think that the other two are plotting to leave them. Like that's, that's like I feel like that's natural with jealousy. And this just seems like a disaster waiting to happen.
It does seem like a excellent way to turn your relationship with your significant other to a competition over who can make a better connection with this third person.
Right. And I think, to me, it's a little different than something like Sister Wives. And I'm not saying like one over the other, but it just seems like it's easier for any one person to feel like they're on the outs if everybody kind of goes with everyone.
If everybody's supposed to be equal and it's not some sort of two, I'm thinking of a node
triangle
diagram here of a triangle, or like, oh, there's two nodes, these ones go down, like,
right.
Yes.
Yeah. But completely separate from that, I think you're dragging children into this situation.
My God, that's the worst. And that's like, oh my God, could you imagine? I can't even imagine being a kid and be like, oh, we live with my dad, my mom, and my mom and dad's sex toy. Like, that's who we live with. Like,
the other thing is she basically looks exactly like Amani, except taller.
Yeah, more or less, yeah. Well, it's hard to tell exactly what Amani looks like because she has very wild stylistic choices that differ. Like, she doesn't. Like, they showed pictures of her and her like business, and I was like, is that the same person that we just see over here? It's there's some choices going on there.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so I'll stick with my habit of picking the people that we haven't seen before, that have been on the show before. So let's talk about Jessica and Juan. So we start in Torrington, Wyoming, where Jessica's kids are literally shoveling shit. And one of them claims that it's the town with the most poop in the entire country, which seems like it could be accurate because she's like, oh yeah, you get used to the smell. It's a thing. So Jessica says her life is pretty normal with her three boys, 9, 7, and 3 months. Although I definitely would not consider jumping in piles of shit and not getting yelled at to be a normal thing. But that's what her kids are doing. also throwing shit at each other. Like, stop, leave the shit alone.
Right.
So anyway, they're walking down Main Street, which is like, this is clearly like a one stoplight town. So like every time they're in town, it's the same little stretch of road. And they're getting ready to welcome, this town is getting ready to welcome the only Colombian that's going to be there. And that's her fiance, Juan. So that relationship got started on her post-divorce cruise. Now this is where we probably heard before. She was going to go on a cruise with her husband. They got divorced. And so they went on the cruise together anyway, because they already had tickets. But now they were exes. And that's when she met Juan, and she swears they didn't hook up on the cruise. So anyway, he was the bartender. They hit it off. And after that, they had like a long distance. COVID hit. So they ended up having a long distance COVID relationship. And then she kept going back and forth to Colombia, which ended in the last trip on her getting proposed to and also getting pregnant. So Juan has met his son, but because, and that's only because they had to like fly to Galveston, because I guess that was a port of call for the cruise. And so he got like a half day shore leave. And now that he's going to come to Wyoming, which is, life in Wyoming is, they say, as different as from the life of a cruise operator as you can get. And that is probably pretty accurate. So we see them FaceTime together, and he's just about all ready to go. And one other thing, and then as she's getting ready to go, the house is just a jungle mess of everything because there's 3 boys living in it. And she's like, he's going to have to get used to this. So we also see Jessica waking up these boys for their crazy morning routine, which involves a large amount of Axe body spray. That's the kind of boys we're dealing with. And she's worried about bringing Juan here, and just like, he has to jump straight into this, right into the routine. She says it's now also his turn to sacrifice for her job. She's a mental health counselor, because she up till now has sacrificed for his job where he works on the cruise. So while the boys are at school, she's got to go get some clothes for Juan, because Wyoming is cold as shit. And he's never even needed a winter coat or seen snow until now. So another adjustment. She wanted to get him here in the summer so that they could like slowly transition into winter, but that's not what happened. He's going to get here in December. So her friends are concerned about him adjusting and, having to jump out of, they've only met each other basically in vacation mode. And there might be a good reason for that, because there was this whole kerfuffle about he DM'd someone, or somebody DM'd Jessica that said she hooked up with him, and he denied it, and they've moved past it, but it's still out there, and the friends still don't trust him. So then we get to see him again on his way to there. Everybody's going to Denver. She has to drive 3 hours to get to Denver for the airport. He's in Miami, and everybody's just like super excited. And then it's dark. When the kids are tired, everybody gets to the airport. We get the airport scene, right? They're waiting outside of customs. They have welcome signs, and then the boys run in. He comes out. The boys run in to give him a hug before Jessica gets a chance to, which is fair because she was holding a baby.
Yeah.
So everybody, and then you get all the talk about, this is amazing. I can't believe I'm here. It's so surreal. Also, here's your Carhartt coat because it's cold as shit here. So now he's already feeling the pressure of being a father of 3 now, because he's got his kid and the 2 other kids. So yes, my understanding is this is one of the other ones, but this is also one of the other ones from Caribbean life of whatever, which as you had said, you had sent me a message earlier. That's like, weren't these the B-roll people? Why are they on the main show?
Yeah, definitely B-roll people. At the same time, I think that it ended up being more interesting. I think they, weren't on the main show because, they weren't deemed as interesting. But a lot of them ended up being more interesting. But part of it had to do with the fact that there were no real visas involved. So, for example, I cannot remember their name, but there was one woman who got pregnant almost immediately. It was a Jamaican guy, I want to say. And so she went back and had her baby. And that guy wasn't trying to be a dad, and so it's like stuff like that where it's like train wreck. But, that guy's not trying to move to the U.S. and live that life. I think she was in Chicago, I want to say.
Oh, good. So, yeah. He's like, listen, I have a great life here of banging tourists. I don't want to come to Chicago and be a dad.
Like, yes, exactly.
Right.
So I kind of feel that this is kind of similar. I think their storyline could be interesting, but I don't know. I also just don't know if it'll last because I feel like that was kind of almost like the premise of Love in Paradise is these are not 90-day people because they're not trying to get married. They're not trying to last. I mean, one of them usually is, but the other is not.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. The Caribbean love tends to be that. Tends to be like, listen, I was single, I was horny, and so I went on this cruise to hook up with some people. Yeah. And then things happen, and they're like, and now we need to be together. And then so one party of this is usually, do we need to be together? Is that something that we need to do?
Right.
Whereas the other one has to go back to their real life. So we do get that vacation, having to have a relationship outside of vacation mode becomes another interesting story. But man, Wyoming is beautiful country, but oh boy, that sounds boring. They have one escalator in the whole state.
Oh God. Well, I know their computer science is practically non-existent. We hear that all the time. They're very
that's
much left
because
out
there's
of
fewer people in there's the same number of people in Wyoming as there is in Baltimore City. Just the city.
Yeah.
There's what has to be at least 5, 6, 7, 8 counties in California that have more people than Wyoming, at least. Probably more than a dozen. And there's just nobody there.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot going on in Wyoming, and I feel like this guy is not set up for success. These are not the conditions for him. And I think really what is going to determine their success in this relationship, and by success I mean his ability to stick around, is really just that. His ability to stick around. This is the guy who is, I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't work hard on that cruise ship, and it's not all fun and games. I know it's not all fun and games, but there is some semblance of, a social life, right? He's now in the middle of Wyoming. He has to be, I don't want to say instant dad, but kind of instant dad. Yeah. It's one thing to kind of grow with a baby and kind of grow into fatherhood and figure things out. But he's got 2 stepkids that he's got to be instant dad to. There's 3 of them. So once again, going along with you, sometimes you get the opportunity to grow with this family, but he's just being plopped into this family, expected to be a father figure, expected to be a support, and expected to completely change his life. Be in the cold ass snow, surrounded by shit. It's like everything about this is if this man sticks around
and let's be fair, with someone who isn't sure he can do it, right? Who has been said that over and over and over again. I'm not sure he can do this.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure we can 100% trust him. That is just failure. Yeah, because you're right. And the one thing, you come in with the baby doesn't do much at first. And so you slowly have to learn new skills as they come along. Whereas the other ones, he's just jumping straight into, why did you shoot him in the eye with the Nerf dart from 3 feet away, you dummy?
Right.
Yeah.
So I like to think he is well-meaning. He has a family, so he's going to have to make sacrifices. And I'm not saying that, he needs to be, set up with this ideal situation. Otherwise, what incentive is there for him to stick around? I get that sacrifice needs to happen, but
This is sacrificing everything.
What is left? Much.
Yeah, because he's just going to be stuck in the house. There was nothing else for him to do but be stuck in that house.
Well, he doesn't want to leave the house given those outside conditions either. So,
true.
I just really feel for the guy. What I really hope for him is that he finds community, right? He finds something outside of Jessica and the family. Pick up a hobby. Pick up some kind of hobby, some kind of joy where he has an identity outside of this new identity for him, right? Yeah. So something that makes it feel like his. That's what I hope for him.
And that's the biggest thing that I feel about Wyoming is that's hard. That's hard to do. Ask. That's a hard ask for a town that doesn't have that many people. There's not that many communities.
Right.
And even if the next one over, like I went to college with a guy from Wyoming, and he was like, he played on the high school basketball team. And I was like, oh, like, you know, you would go, he'd be like, yeah, we had like 3 or 4 hour trips to go to like the next high school over. Like the closest one was 2 hours away. And I was like, oh God. Yeah. And so it's like, yeah, if this town of 6,000 people doesn't even have like a good, I don't know, knitting circle, whatever the shit he wants to do, like where are you going to get that?
Yeah. I don't know. So
right.
I don't really remember what kind of came of his cheating allegations and things like that. So I don't know. Maybe he deserves getting strapped down with a family for a little while, but I don't know. We'll kind of have to see how this plays out.
See how it goes. That's the whole point. Yep.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about Stevi and Maddie. So we meet Stevi, 37. She's a painter who is painting a nude subject. She's from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. She likes to paint nudes specifically to celebrate different body types. She is a single mom with 2 kids. So as her moneymaker, she also teaches English online. She has students from all over the world, and that's how she met Maddie, one of her students. He is handsome, but he also stuck out to Stevi because he was overly prepared for class, asked a lot of questions, and had the worst internet connection of anyone ever. Stevi says that video chats were really rough. Stevi is sketching Maddie nude. Steve says Maddie likes to pretend he's shy, but he sent her a link to social media when the class was over, which ended up being a total thirst trap with tons of girls following him and shirtless pictures. Stevi and Maddie wanted to meet in person, but Iran, which is where he's from, was too dangerous for Stevi at the time, so they met in Turkey. Maddie proposed while they were in Turkey. After a year of waiting for Maddie's visa to be approved, Stevi is excited, but she's also mentally okay with things not working out because waiting for this visa was really stressful because of the conflict between Iran and the US. So they just weren't sure if he'd be able to leave in the end. So Stevi cries thinking about it. Stevi's sister and mom knows about Maddie, but Steve hasn't told her dad, Perry. Stevi describes her dad as patriotic, which is interesting. A nice choice of words to get your point across, and worries that he might be prejudiced against a man from Iran. Stevi is going to get her dad to help her fix up her car, and she plans on telling him about it then. Stevi also says that she doesn't want to put strain on her relationship with her dad since he was recently diagnosed with a lung disease. Stevi doesn't know what she will do if her dad doesn't approve. Stevi brings her car to Perry, who is a mechanic and does body and paint work. Perry says that he's getting old and working on her car is tiring him out, so he takes a rest and they have a talk. Stevi tells her dad that she has something to tell him, and he asks, "Is this going to make me mad?" She brings up her trip to Turkey and tells him that she met up with a student who she has feelings for. Perry keeps trying to confirm that this is a man, right? And Stevi says that, yes, he's a man from Iran. And Perry says that, they hate Americans. And Stevi just kind of rolls her eyes and says, obviously not all Americans. Perry wants to know if he speaks English, and Stevi says yes. Perry says that he is concerned, mostly because, his country has a history of oppressing women in their culture. Stevi tells her dad that Maddie will be there tomorrow and they will be getting married in 90 days. And Perry seems to be in shock and asks if she'll have to wear a hijab and be considered property or have to serve him. And Perry thinks that, Maddie's upbringings and values are going to be so different. So Stevi wants Perry to be able to meet him, and Perry assures her that he'll be around because Stevi was definitely implying that Perry might be dead or incapable or, because of his disease. So Stevi wants Perry to walk her down the aisle, and Perry doesn't want to commit to that without meeting Maddie first. He says that they can talk about that later. Stevi says that Maddie will be sacrificing a lot because it's very likely he won't be able to go home ever again, so this has to work. Stevi puts the pressure on Perry to get to know him and like him. All right, so what did you think about Perry's reaction to all this, given that Stevi did a nice job of kind of summing up what to expect from Perry, saying he's patriotic. He bleeds red, white, and blue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and they're also from the South. So
yes, I feel like this is going to be a difficult one to keep politics out of, because I feel like, as you said, she was hinting at it. What she was saying is, my dad is racist.
Right.
Like, I have a racist dad. The way of putting it. And it's like, so if you have a dad that you know is like it seemed very much like, can you please just don't use the word woke in front of the camera, gosh. Dad? Like, let's not, right? Yes, the way he handled it, while I would not consider it ideal from someone I would want to be telling about, was either heavily edited or not as good as you can hope, right?
I was going to say, I thought it was pretty good. I thought that it was good that he was bringing up these questions that I think, regardless if you're racist or not, just based on what you know, right? So Perry has this impression of the Middle East based on what he knows, which is women being oppressed, which I think is a fair, thing to think of first, especially when it's your daughter who is marrying a man from this culture. So, women being oppressed, wearing a hijab, having, limited rights. I think keeping it narrow to that, because I think that it's really more of his concern and love for his daughter. Asking those questions, I think, is pretty fair, because it really sounded like it was coming from a place of, I want to learn more. Tell me how this is going to be different than my current view of how this is.
Sure. And to be fair, production could have very well been playing it up by being very passively trying to tell us, watch out for this guy. He's from the South, right? Right. I can see that too. Right. And, playing up the expectations that are a little bit different. And, he also seems like he's a little hard of hearing. And so, because it comes, huh? What? Like, it kind of comes across like that does that. But yeah, I'm concerned about my daughter, and many concerns that would come from, regardless of who they are, right? Is he going to treat you right? And for instance, another thing I felt like production did him dirty is he didn't say hijab, he said jihad. He's like, he's going to make you wear a jihad. And it's like, okay, that seems to me like, I don't know how ignorant this man may have been when they filmed, but that to me sounds like, oh, so you're just trying to make this man look as ignorant as possible. Right? By being like, the only Muslim word I know is jihad, and not throwing out the right word, even though it's a pretty close word. Like, hijab and jihad are not that off syntactically that you could easily confuse one or the other, the way I would mix up any two words, right?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, given what Stevi was kind of prefacing the encounter, I think it was pretty good on Perry's part. And honestly, I thought his reaction to, I'm not going to blindly accept this person. Like, let me meet them first before I give any kind of blessings, I thought was also fair.
Yeah, totally fair. Yeah, and I think they were setting us up to expect, like, my daughter's not marrying no Muslim man. Like, they were like, and that's not what happened. That's not what was gonna happen. So, yeah. So I'm a little bit curious on this one, is how much are they going to, kind of, they're often guilty of falling into stereotypes. How much are they going to fall into stereotypes of Southerners? This is how Southerners are. You can't be an Iranian near Southerner, and to be unfair to them, just like they're unfair to a lot of other groups of people, to be fair.
Right. Honestly, I don't want to hate on Perry too much, because how many times have we pointed out that women on this show just need to watch other seasons of this show to be like, were you that surprised about the culture being different, about the values being different, about Muslim men and like their traditional, quote, societal views? And so it's like Perry at least has some awareness of these things. And so asking those questions, it's like, don't we say like, man, have you even watched anyone who's dated a Muslim guy on this show? Like, come on.
Right. But it does seem like, yes, yes, because if his only if his only knowledge about anything Islam was what he saw on 90 Day Fiancé,
oh gosh,
those are the questions you would ask,
yeah,
right?
Right.
Because that's what they keep showing us on this show.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so last up, we have Mark and Mina. So they're new. We start off in an airport and a hangar in New Hampshire, but kind of an airport. It's like a big, long grass strip where Mark, 58, is doing some maintenance work on a single-engine plane. So he lives near a clearing that the houses around he specifically uses as a runway because he's a private pilot. His day job is flying private jets, and then we see some pictures of various presidents and people who weren't quite president. There was a Kamala picture at the end there, so it didn't work. So that didn't happen. that he's flown. So on a work trip to Paris once, though, he ran into Mina, who's 35, and that took his life in a whole new direction. So they were in a long-distance relationship for 2 years, and he popped the question to be able to get her into the country. 6 months after that engagement, though, they found out she was pregnant, which is definitely, he called it Plan Z for a 58-year-old man, but still seems happy. So his daughter was born in Paris, and it's been, quite hectic with everything. So hectic that the next time we see him, his life is in such a mess that he's actually in Palm Beach, so not New Hampshire anymore, where his daughter, Jordan, lives. So, of course, everyone tries to tell him, and everyone thinks that Mina is just in it for the green card. So she's going to get here in just a few days, and then he's talking to Jordan at like a Top Golf or something, a driving range, about like what she thinks of Mina. And, the last time she saw Mina was when the whole family went to France about 6 months ago for the kid's baptism. So Jordan also thought the entire baptism trip was like way over the top, like huge celebrations, just giant things. It took hours, and it left a real bad taste in Jordan's mouth for a few reasons. One of them was because there was this huge party that Mina was like 3 hours late to, and she was like, we're all just sitting here waiting for her, and it was very annoying. So Jordan tells Mark that she feels like she wasn't a priority when they were over in Europe, because Mina was like skipping events that they had like a lunch the next day, and like it was just his family, so Mina didn't come, and she felt like, oh, I see how it is. When it's his family, you don't give a shit. It's only when you have your big family things. So this news surprises Mark because he thought everybody had just a grand old time. Jordan thinks he just doesn't see what everybody else sees, because he's in love or whatever, and doesn't see the potential harm that things going haywire could mean. So, which is pretty evident that, to her, like also pretty evident that he doesn't understand that, because he tells her that they're thinking about having another baby. Jordan, not okay with this. She says that it's hard to take in while you're thinking about having another baby because it's going to, quote, change the whole family dynamic. She's really not okay. She is not at all okay with him having baby number 2. She says Mark should be retiring, not changing diapers, and she thinks that Mina is like trying to use the baby to isolate him from his family. So he says that Mina being in it for the wrong reasons is maybe like a 2% fear for him, and they're not married yet. So that brings up everything we bring up, the prenup question. So Mark says he kind of seems to know it would be a good idea, gets why it's valuable, but he's hesitant to bring it up to Mina because he had a different relationship with another person that just went to shit as soon as he brought up prenup. So he doesn't want to deal with that again. So Jordan doesn't want Mina to get away with all this. And so there's going to be some hard conversations when she gets here. So I guess I was a little taken aback at how hard Jordan was taking baby number 2, because I don't know what baby number 2 meaningfully changes that baby number 1 didn't already change. And so, I mean, what do you think was the real like source of anger really here?
I don't really, because I agree with you. Once you've already had one baby, it's not like you're impacted by their day-to-day life. It's not like you're the one getting called in to babysit. So why does it matter to you? But I think maybe she's concerned that, this person is really using her dad for money and having a second child and having to support another, living dependent is maybe something that, she's, I don't know, doesn't want for her dad, which I can understand that. But to get mad at him over it, it's like, okay. But maybe if you're just like, oh, well, it's a conscious decision here, maybe she thinks that her being mad about it will have some type of influence over the decisions being made. But, I don't really know. But it's been a while since we've had a much older person and a much younger person like this, right? And so I don't want to say it's refreshing, but it's like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, we haven't seen this in a while. This is interesting because I really don't get the impression that Mark is on this show for any kind of
he's not here for
influencing
clout.
power.
Yeah.
Right. So to me, it's like, oh, this is like a legit thing. Like he really, is in this, and he's really jumping in this genuinely. The fact that he is only considering a 2% chance of being scammed or used is like, I don't know. It makes me question how with it Mark really is.
Yeah, maybe, especially because it's like even the whole start of the relationship seemed like suspect. Like whenever I feel like whenever you're like, oh, I don't know what attracted her to me, there was a lot more better looking like guys around, I'd be like, I'm suspicious of you.
Yeah.
Why would you just randomly come up to me in this club? This is the wrong. There are way better looking guys than me. This is confusing me. You must be scamming.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I just everything. But I'll tell you what, even Jordan kind of rubbed me the wrong way because there was part of the way she was saying things and the way she was doing it that made me feel like what she was really upset about with baby number 2 was that we were adding one more number to the denominator of that inheritance split.
Yeah.
Right? And she's like, because at the end of the day, yeah, maybe she is scamming her dad for the money. But you know whose money that is? Your dad's, not yours. Right. And you could be concerned. You could be like, I hope things work out well for him. But to be like, there's going to be some hard question. Your dad doesn't answer to you. You're his daughter. What is that?
Yeah, I definitely think she's taking advantage of the fact that her dad wants to have a relationship with his daughter as some kind of leverage for being able to influence his decisions in some way. You know, like, oh, well, I won't talk to you if I don't like the decisions that you're making. I really have to see them, together, like Mina and Mark together to kind of really see what their relationship is. But it just doesn't really sound like, based on what Jordan has said. Mark isn't really even trying to defend Mina too much about this, but it doesn't really seem like Mina cares about his family. And so if Mark, really cares about his family and wants to incorporate Mina into that family, I just don't know if this is the kind of person who's going to be open to it, and she's just going to cause more conflict in their family than really anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. When someone you feel personally insults you, right? And that we saw it, what she said, not respecting your time, right? Yeah. And then, so you feel like some kind of way, then you're going to think the worst about this person. Clearly she's after the money. Clearly that's all she cares about coming here. Yeah. So, yeah. And so, yeah, maybe the 2% is a little bit off.
Low. Yeah.
a little bit low. Yeah.
All right. So, let's see here. We still have more. I know we haven't
There are two more coming.
Yeah.
I don't know who. I don't know what their names are, but I know that there were 7 couples.
Yeah, there's another group from Love in Paradise.
Right.
The one who, Aaliyah, I want to say. Aaliyah and Sean, maybe. Although I can't remember if Sean was the dead name or the partner's name, but yeah, that situation. And then,
oh, right.
Yeah.
And then there's I live with my mom still situation.
Oh gosh.
The last one.
Oh my gosh, the preview
At least the mom doesn't live in a closet this time.
Oh my gosh, these people. All right. Yeah. So, who would you say out of the group we saw this week was your student of the week?
I will. Oh, geez. It's tough to really get a good feel for anybody in terms of these. Just
Fair.
this first like go round. But I mean, I guess I'll say Jessica as the only person who seems to have be realistic about her situation and have as adequately as well as she could prepared her partner to be here. I feel like the other people didn't do one of those two things.
Well, that's interesting about being realistic. I went with Stevi because I thought she was pretty realistic about their chances, her and Maddie's chances in the first place. And I think that's the reason why she kind of randomly made that comment about being okay with it not working out, right? And I don't think it was necessarily that she was okay with it, but I feel like she was just mentally prepared for it to not work out. And because she said that, and then literally in the next sentence, she's like crying about the, possibility of him not being able to be here. So I don't think it was that, but I think she's being realistic about it. Yeah, and I kind of liked her. I kind of liked, the relationship she has with her dad, how that kind of conversation went the best of all scenarios, given what we know.
Yeah, and she waited like till the day before to tell him. That was the part that was like,
Well, at least he didn't overreact. So,
Yes, true.
Yeah, and she followed through with actually telling him. How many times do we get the today's going to be the day that I tell him?
She also did it.
Couldn't bring
She also did it in such a way where he was afraid the reality was going to be so much worse than it was like, okay. Like she was like, it's a guy, right? It's a guy. Like
because she kept on saying Maddie, which he was like,
right.
Oh, Matt, this is a man, right? And then she's like, Dad, my name is Stevi.
Well, the way she did it is like, he's like, I gotta sit you down and tell something, which is always like, oh crap.
Yeah,
no,
right.
This is not gonna be good.
Yeah. Okay, what about your dunce?
I'm gonna say Amani. Like everything was fake about her.
Yes.
This whole throuple thing, her boss ass bitch. It's just like, she also just seems like she's just dragging two people through the world on her wake. Right. And it's just like, makes me like, I don't think I'm going to like this person.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. She's also my dunce. I did not get great vibes from her. She's dragging Matt along. I don't know. Maybe Matt's the one who is orchestrating this whole throuple, but based on what we saw, that is not the case.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What about your life lesson?
Oh, geez. I guess we'll go with that on the thing. Like, you shouldn't be. We want to stay away from stereotyping people, right? And so, like, we want to make sure we as much as patriotic as we talk about, let's reclaim patriotism. I'll even make it more of a thing.
Yeah.
Patriotism doesn't need to mean racist. And we should, the life lesson is let's reclaim patriotism. Instead of saying when you say somebody's patriotic, that's code for them being a terrible racist person. Like, let's get away from that. My life lesson is we should try to reclaim that word because patriotism can be good.
Yeah, I think the reason why it's kind of gone that way is because it's like people who are patriotic are like America first, and if America's first, everybody else is not, right? So,
but the people, again, I don't want to get too political, but it seems like the people who are most adamant about America first discount a huge percentage of Americans when they do that.
Yeah,
like, they very, very cliquish in who does and does not count as being American.
Yeah, fair. So my life lesson goes to Mina. Anytime you are actively trying to integrate into someone's life and family, I don't care how tired you are. I don't care how much you want to, how motivated you are. You have to make a effort and like a visible, measurable effort with the family. And so that means, trying to put your best foot forward. And if you don't give a shit about being with this person long term, maintaining good relationships with, and making your relationship as a result more difficult, then don't do any of that. right? Because you're just putting a strain on your relationship with the family, which is going to put a strain on your relationship with the person. So you got to try.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
All right. So we will be back again next week with possibly the introduction of 2 more couples.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
So until
All right.
then.
All right. See everybody then.
Okay.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.